Hello everyone, my name is Chris Morse and I'm going to be taking you through the lesson 1 version of our working knowledge training. This is a PowerPoint presentation that you should have a copy of. If you do not, please contact VersaCall support and we'll ensure you get a link to download it. So in this it has an overview of what's going to be covered, and it's basically an overview of what I'm going to cover inside this video. So what we're going to learn is how to navigate to the VT3000 welcome page, where you can navigate to the individual software packages from that page. For our purposes today, we're going to log into the VT3000 core software. We're going to set up a user group and assign permissions, and after we set up this user group, we're going to create a individual user and assign them to a group that is existing or one that we created. After we get that set up, we're going to get into schedules. What a schedule is when does your day start and the shifts that are inside that day. The last thing we're going to do is augment a schedule. So we're going to take one of these schedules and augment it for, say, a day off or a day perhaps when you're working overtime for a specific shift. So we're going to get right into it here, and basically what you need to do is open up a web browser. As you can see down here on my icons, I've got IE and I've got Chrome. For right now, I'm going to go ahead and select Chrome, and typical what you should see on your screen, and basically got a web address bar. What we have to type into here is the IP address of the VersaCall computer. If you do not know what that IP address is, please go ahead and pause this, contact IT, and find out what that IP address is. Once you have it, simply type it in. And once it's typed in, simply hit enter, and you should get your welcome to the VT3000 page. On this page, all the individual buttons go to the individual software packages. For our purposes today, we're going to be concentrating on VT3000 core software. Other things to notice on this is there is a sign-in button up here that allows you to enter your username, password, select keep me signed in. When you sign in through this, it basically logs you in for all the software. So when you select one of these individual buttons, you will not be prompted for another login. The other thing to note here is support. If you click on this, it'll basically give you a support ticket or request for information. Fill it out with your name, email address, phone number, your question or problem that you're having, and when you hit submit, it goes to our support department. This will show up when you have email set up on your system. In an instance where you do not have email set up on your system, you'll simply be given these links at the bottom. They work the same way. If you click on VersaCall support ticket, it will take you to our web page, which has a ticket to fill out, and pretty much the same way, a little bit more information is asked here because they won't know where it's coming from. Go ahead and close that window. The other option you would get is you could just email us, and it should bring up your default email, which mine is Outlook. So as it comes up, it's filled out, support at VersaCall, and it's a support request for the home page. Basically, close that. And the last thing is it gives you a phone number to call. You could call in and get assistance via the phone. I'm going to go ahead and hit return. The other option that's available on this page is help. So if you click on the help icon, it takes you to our VersaCall support page, which is essentially a wiki page with information on the software. And as you'll see, it's laid out via the icons that are available inside the software. Simply click on it. It takes you to the page and explains briefly what's going on with that page. But go ahead and close this for now, and we're going to get into the lesson here, which is VT3000 core software login. So we're going to click on that icon. It's going to give us a login. We're going to use the default, which comes with the system, which is admin lowercase for both the username and a password. Keep me signed in will basically keep you logged in to VT3000 core software as long as you have the web page open. Click on login, and you're going to see the VT3000 system software homepage here, We've got all your icons for the different divisions of software. For purposes today, we want to set up a user group. User group is in administration. We click administration and we click user groups. This is the default group that comes with the system. So we can select it, click edit, and we can edit. For our purposes now, we're going to add a new one. So we click add and we give it a name. So we'll call this the test group. Here is, you can select the different applications and the permissions for each one of those. For today, we're just concerned with the core software. As you can see, by default, it has all these clicked as view, so it's basically allowing you to view that part of the software but not do anything inside of it. If you want to give someone a permission to do something, say for devices right here, we could hit okay, we allow them to program, add, edit, and delete a device. And then we can hit save and exit, and that'll allow them to do that. Anything you want to allow them to do, simply check mark. Anything, if it is check marked and you don't want them to do that, just simply check it again and remove the check mark. So we're going to hit save and exit. As we can see, test group is now in our section here. From here we could edit, basically the same steps as before. Check, uncheck what you want to be able to do. Save and exit. You can also select it and click delete. Once you hit delete, it'll automatically delete it. It won't ask you if you're sure, so be sure you want to delete it before you click that button. The other thing you can do is you can copy it. So if we want to make a copy of this, we'll call it test group 2. Let's say we want to add a couple more permissions for this people, and we just hit save and exit. Now we have our test group and test group 2. So now that we have our user group set up, we can actually set up an individual user. We're going to go back to our home page here, select administration, and now we're going to have users. As you can see, our lowercase admin that we logged in with to begin with is already existing here. What we're going to do is we're going to add a new one. So we're going to say username, just call it JDo. And that's what will appear on your username list. This just allows you to identify who exactly it is by putting in their full name. Then you could type in what department they're in. Say maintenance. Password. What you type in here is the password that they will use on that login screen that we used admin on. And they would basically be typing in JDo and whatever password we put in here. So I'm going to use a simple 1, 2, 3, 4, and that would be their password. Email address basically serves two purposes. Fill out their email address, and when they click that support ticket, it will automatically add their email address to that support ticket, so they basically just have to ask their question and hit submit. The other purpose this serves is for the administrator that's setting up the user. They can, if they're changing passwords every so many days, they have this available to email that person as soon as they do it. So we're just going to type in an email address for this person, and now you'll have that information for the administrator, or as I said, to put in the support ticket. Phone number serves the same purpose. It will be filled out on that ticket, or any administrator changing information can give them a call and tell them that it's changed. Next thing is the user group. As you can see, if we click the down arrow here, we have all the groups that we set up, the 2 that we set up today, and course administrators, which is existing and gives permissions to everything. Select which group you want them to be in, and that'll assign those permissions to this user once we save it. The other option is a theme. So there's 2 themes available: default, high contrast. Default's basically what you're seeing on the screen here. A high contrast will basically give you a dark or black background with white text. It's up to you how you want to do it. Default generally seems to be the best. We hit save and exit, and as we can see, now our JDo appears. We can edit him, change his password, and give him a call with the phone number, or shoot him an email that says, hey, we changed your password to the following. Save and exit, so now he'll have to log in with that new password. The other thing is you can select one and hit delete, Just be advised that once you hit delete, it won't ask you if you're sure. It'll just delete it. So now we have a user group set up. A user, we've assigned them to a group. So now what we want to get into is our shifts and schedules. So once again, we're going to hit home. Now this is under configuration. So we're going to hit configuration, and we're going to go across here to shifts and schedules. As you can see, there are many in here already. The default one will come with all systems, and it should be set up with whatever information was provided on the configuration sheet. For our purposes today, we're going to add a new one. Let's call this new schedule. And what we have here is the start of the day. So when does your work day start? Does it start at midnight? Does it start when first shift begins? Whatever that may be. I'm going to go ahead and set this up, and I'm going to have it start at 6 a.m., which is going to be when my first shift starts. Leave this to auto detect, and leave this on standard. Basically, next we want to add shifts. So over here on the left where it says select one, we're going to select shift. As you can see, we don't have any shifts because it's a new schedule. So we're going to add, and it'll be called first shift. Used by default just means that this will always be used. Unless if you uncheck that, then it won't know what's the default shift to use. You'll have to set it up in augmentation. For our purposes now, leave it set as used by default. We're going to set the start time, as I said, was 6 a.m. I'm going to say they're going to work until 3 p.m. And just for the purposes here, I'll just leave it every day of the week. I could uncheck that, hey, we don't work Friday and Saturday. Next thing you have is breaks. So if you want to add a break to it, basically click that. By default, it'll come up with this time. I'll go ahead and leave that. Say that was first break. And then I'll add in a lunch. So I want to say that lunch starts at 11 a.m. and goes until 11:30 a.m. And I would just label it as lunch. And now I've got my first shift set up. If I want to set up another shift, same thing again, click shifts. We'll get back here. Can add, it'll default be named as second. And so then we'll say that this shift starts at 3 p.m. and goes till 10 p.m. Same thing again, add breaks. Select which days of the week this applies to. We're going to hit save and exit. And now you can see our new schedule is sitting there. To edit a schedule, basically we can select this one here called management. We hit edit, and we have the same thing. Could change what time the day starts. We could go to this first shift, and this is going 5 a.m. 5 p.m. has a different lunch. We could say we're going to delete that break. It's going to ask you if that's okay. Simply say okay. And it's not shown on the bar here because we don't have anything up. We're not working Saturdays and Sundays. And basically here now you'll see the representation of that schedule up there. The black means this is when the breaks fall, right? And if you scroll over it, it'll tell you individually what it is. Okay, so we're going to hit save and exit. The other things you can do obviously is delete it. Once again, it'll merely delete it, won't ask you why. If you hit print for a specific one, it'll tell you. I'll open a new page just like this. I'll tell you the name of it, when the start of the day is, the crossover, and the standard. And then it'll break it down to the first shift. Starts 5 a.m., goes 5 p.m., has these breaks, and these are the days that it applies to. We'll go ahead and close that window. Now we're going to get into augmenting a shift. So we're going to select a shift from there, and then we're going to hit augment, and we're going to see our representation here. And this just happens to be the day this is being recorded. So I'm going to say that tomorrow we can do a couple things. Default means, as we had the check mark used as default, so it's default going to go to what we already established. The other option is disabled, which means we're not going to work that day. It's a holiday. The third option is custom, where we can basically change anything. Like I said, I'm saying we're going to work some overtime. So we say 6 p.m. And if we had an additional break in that time frame, say 3 p.m. to 3:30 p.m. and then just call it break 2. So as you can see over here, it'll highlight. That means you've augmented that day, and you can select another day and augment that one as well. Once you've done all the days that you need, you simply hit save and exit. The schedules come into play really in your monitors of your virtual panels inside your plant, and with the reporting when you run reports. So basically, if you've got that day augmented, the report and or screen won't include any information for that day. This pretty much concludes lesson 1. Go ahead and minimize this and come back. And as you can see, we covered how to log into the welcome screen, how we logged into VT3000, how we set up a user group, how to set up a user, create a schedule with shifts, and how to augment the schedule. And that will conclude our lesson 1. Please feel free to go through the PowerPoint presentation. It will give you step by step with pictures of each thing that we did today. If you scroll to the bottom, there's a summary, basically what all I went over prior to this. There's a practical application that's asking you to do all the things that we went over today. And the other is additional information. And so basically, when I spoke earlier, the support page, basically you can click on these links and it would take you to that VT3000 core. These are basically overviews of the things we did today. And these are step-by-step instructions on how to do the things that we went over today. Once again, thank you for your time, and hope you have a great day.